therefore were very dangerous and very erratic. This one's going to go up in the air, and because we want to get the rocket back, it will eventually deploy a parachute. So you just keep an eye out, and we will be firing the first of the rockets.
There he goes, he's got his hand up. There he goes. Gosh, oh, that's quite good. I'll take that if you pass another one. He's going, his arms.
In his rocket, the flight was stabilised by making it spin, so it didn't have a stick at all. The British weren't very impressed by this.
He's ready to go, but
so
that bloke's rabbiting.
Where it was eventually adopted by the American Army period. Now all of the early rockets suffered from somewhat erratic.
That's the Viet Cong.
An American convoy moving down a jungle trail. Infantry support. Coming under a bit of a fire attack here now. Infantry have opened up from the flanks. The convoy speeds up. But they've got a long way to go. Vietnamese infantry are moving up, taking over the area. They know what's coming and they're ready.
There you have the race, yes.
Convoy really is running a gauntlet of enemy fire. They've got outpost positions that they're using to fire at them as they go by. The problem is getting through. The supplies are vital. Now something's happened.
I might just go behind them.
Looks like an attacker's hit one of the trucks. One thing the Americans can count on is artillery support. It's a long way back, but they have the ability to call down firepower on their attackers, and it was supremely accurate. The American artillery in the war in Vietnam had an unenviable reputation to be able to put shells exactly where they were needed. The convoy's covered itself with smoke to try and protect the men. But still, the attackers are pressing home. Another way of dealing with these is to make them kill to there. The fight continues till now the artillery starts to have a job. This could make a difference. Shells start to make the
sees that the water past Wrecker has moved into the middle of the arena and it's about to be joined by two smallish track vehicles. They are M5 light tanks, that's what the Americans would know them as. To the British, they'd be known as Stuarts, more properly, but colloquially usually as Honeys. They tended to get called Honeys by all the British troops that used them. But the proper name given by the British was the General Stuart, named after Jeb Stuart, the Confederate cavalry leader. In fact, we, for some obscure reason, you'll see that the Ward of France Wrecker has moved into the middle of the arena, and it's about to be joined by two smallish track vehicles. They are M5 light tanks, that's what the Americans would know them as. To the British, they'd be known as Stuarts, more properly, but colloquially usually as Honeys. They tended to get called Honeys by all the British troops that used them. But the proper name given by the British was the General Stuart, named after Jeb Stuart, the Confederate cavalry leader. In fact, we, for some obscure reason, chose to name most of the American tanks rather than let the Americans do it, and gave them all names of the famous Civil War generals, Grant, Sherman, Lee, and so on. Now, the two tanks here are two different versions of the same thing. The one flying the large files of stripes is a standard Stuart tank with a fully rotating turret and a 37mm gun, powered by twin Cadillac engines, used by most of the Allied nations. Very fast, very light little vehicle, ideal for is a scout version. A number of regiments, both British and American, removed the turrets from their Stuart tanks latterly. The little 37mm gun was really a bit of a pea shooter by the end of the war, and the turret sort of stuck up in the air. So they took the turrets off and operated them as scout vehicles. A lot of the Stuarts actually stayed like that until after the war, and the Royal Artillery used them as tractors for the 17-pounder anti-tank gun. But the one you can see hitching up to the Ward of France is fitted with a little mini turret and a 50 caliber Browning machine gun. The crew are now attaching a rigid tow bar to the tank from the Ward.
I took it.
Not just a matter of weight, because the Stuarts are not heavy tanks, probably no more than about 12-15 tons in their various forms. There is a tremendous amount of rolling resistance with tracks. It's not just like pulling a wheeled vehicle along the ground. You've got to pull the tracks around, and you're actually pulling the tracks around the sprockets, and in a sense, also turning the gearboxes of both vehicles. So you're fighting a lot of resistance on each vehicle just to move it along, and that really makes this quite an achievement. Now, whether that's a technical hitch or not, I don't know. But the tow bars come away from the Ward of France, and everyone's down to the hook. The story as to how the Stuart tanks became known as Honeys is one that I've always been very suspicious of, but we can tell it nonetheless. It is said that when the first American tanks arrived in the desert, direct from the USA, and the British crews were given a chance to try them out, they came as quite a pleasant surprise. Our own tanks at that time really did not have an excellent reputation for reliability. The Crusader, for instance, when it was going, could really motor, but its potential for breaking down was almost legendary. Now, it surprises me, it's not an expression you'd expect a British soldier to use. In any case, there would have been an adjective in front of it almost invariably, I can't use at the moment. So it's quite possible that they picked that up off the end. But the Americans actually had teams out in the desert, training our people to use their vehicles. There are a lot of contrast between British and American approach to tank design. As I said earlier, the fact that the Stuart had the engine at the back and the gearbox in the front is considered by many a waste of space. It means that in order to get the drive shaft from the back to the front, you've got a much... The British soldiers loved them. They really could motor. But, as I say, we're talking about what is quite an early war design, which remained in service right through to the end of the war. Funnily enough, the Brazilian army carried on using these tanks for years after the war. Not that they really got into any serious scraps with anybody, but they brought large stocks of the Stuarts and were running them and even converting them to more up-to-date weapon systems and engines as they continued to develop them. but it is a neat little design. I think another thing we lose sight of when comparing British and American tank design is the immense reliance the Americans place on the vehicles manufactured by tanks. Generally speaking, described as the ability to make two things fit that don't fit. The Americans would have none of that. If Part A, having been manufactured, didn't fit directly into Part B, then it was no use to anybody. So this American insistence on standardization generally produced a vehicle which was not only easier to manufacture, but a lot easier to service. And that makes it...
This was running a little machine now, and we have one up here a couple of years that was driven by a rubber of a copper.
This is a lovely little collection. We've got a CJ5 Jeep, one of the post-war Kaiser versions of the Jeep, left-hand drive. The Israelis at one point virtually took on the entire opposition with Jeeps and fought them extremely well. But of course the other vehicle for which they are renowned is the extensive use of the half-track. This one is a mortar-carrying vehicle, heavily armed with 50 caliber Brownings as well. The Israelis made quite a sort of cottage industry of modifying them and used them long after the war, and never really found anything adequate to replace them with. It's the old Dodge weapons carrier, another vehicle they got a tremendous amount of mileage out of.
So they were experts at modifying vehicles. Just before we left there in 48, they were borrowing some of our military lorries and also using up some of the rough shape, and they went on using them not only civilian use, but when we left they took on the war with these armoured vehicles. It'd be lovely to see a few examples of those around.
Well, I think this was the matter of necessity, wasn't it? That a Catman, very nice to see an ambulance version of the Land Rover Hero. It was rather lightweight. Now, here is one of the little parabytes that we used as a sort of folding contraption to put in a case and drop out of a glider or an aircraft to make you air or ground portable, having landed by air. There's a number of these things produced throughout the years. How effective they were, something I think people will question, but they were great fun in their day, and there are people preserving many different... Land Rover ambulance for control, carrying the markings of the United Nations to remind us that...
Yeah, I got it.
He's keeping role in...
There's the castle in the background.
I think Land Rover one day take over the famous name of the Model T Ford because...
As the British one, no?
Yes, I think they are, and they're built in a sense to the same principles. Airborne here with a front-mounted hook in the desert scheme, followed by a very nice series of Diamond T. Actually, he's up here today, isn't he? Yes, stores as well at one time, I think.
I don't blame him.
Well, I think we may have exhausted the supply of modern vehicles. I don't know. I can't see anybody else lining up. I display with the two sections from the Screaming Eagles, and really to demonstrate how tanks and infantry cooperate in battle, because although the tank was first invented to assist the infantry in the trenches of the First World War, its role changed dramatically between the wars into a sort of a fleet at sea idea, and there was a belief, especially in Britain between the wars, that tanks could virtually do what they wanted, swan around the countryside, shooting up and really ruling the roost. This, in the experience of war, proved to be wrong. It was learned very quickly that infantry and tanks working together is the best possible combination. The tank is there to deal with any opposition the infantry can't cope with, anything from a heavy 45 machine gun position to an enemy armoured attack. But the tank out in the open, with infantry, especially in the days of the bazooka and the German equivalent, the handheld anti-tank weapons, the tank can become very vulnerable. You only need to find infantry hiding in bushes to fire these one-shot weapons at the tank, and the tank is very vulnerable. And in times like that, the tank needs the infantry every bit as much as the infantry need their tanks. So this sort of tactical training, where tanks and infantry cooperate, is absolutely vital. You'll see that the tanks cover the infantry in the advance, that the infantry then move forward to take their positions while the tanks take up the flank positions, and then If you watch, the tanks will move around the flank and then prepare to back up the infantry and cover a retirement. Obviously on the tactical exercise there's no need for the use of weapons. This is really a manoeuvring practice. The tanks getting them used to one another, vital part of war. Now the infantry gently fall back onto the tanks, which are there to provide cover for them. But at the same time, remember, they're protecting the tanks from any attack that's coming their way. The men fall back covering one another, so we're not all moving at once. There's always some people with their weapons ready. They go back to the tanks, gradually using the tanks for cover, done section at a time. And now the withdrawal commences with the tanks covering them. The infantry still very alert. Make sure the tanks know where the men are before they move, and then a gradual withdrawal covered by the firepower of the tanks, all done with the utmost caution. In the latter part of the war, especially after the Rhine crossing, there was an amazing period when the Churchill tanks of the Guards Tank Brigade actually carried the American intense bond, and a bit of mutual training does wonders in this sort of circumstance. Being a tactical exercise, of course, it can often be done in ideal conditions. In real war conditions, there's always the unexpected to consider, the idea of someone coming in from the flank. Everything has got to be thought of, and war never quite works.
That first one's that most commercial.
Mm. Yeah.
Give it back.
Yeah, when you can. There's Dave's mate.
I'll just the Saunders.
It's got a black tab on it. We've also got
Go on then. Fast and review!
He did that because you remember.
Yeah.
Crazy Eggman.
That's it from Berkley 2001. Military show. Unexpected.